In this video, I want to fact check some claims recently made by the American commentator Tucker Carlson. Now, I must admit, I've stopped watching him for a long time. He's quite right wing and supported Trump and so on. But it's fascinating in recent months, there's been a split in the neocon movement in those who supported Trump. And people like Tucker Carlson are now quite critical of Trump. Why? Well, because Trump was elected on an America First platform. That's what he promised the electorate. But the critics go, like Tucker Carlson, Trump now is putting Israel first. He's now Israel first politician. And this, of course, contradicts his electoral pledges. So it's very interesting. And quite recently, Tucker Carlson's done some fascinating interviews with the president of Iran and John Mearsheimer, who is the professor of politics at University of Chicago. Very interesting critique of the lobby in America. But unfortunately, Tucker Carlson recently did another interview about what's going on in the UK, and he made some very unfortunate comments. Comments I think are simply not true about how Muslims are taking over and Pakistanis around the country and white people are a tiny minority in London. I mean, I live in London. It's not true. So we're going to look at some of the claims in this video. It's only 2 or 3 minutes long. We're going to fact check it and point out what the reality is here and not what these Americans are saying. Unfortunately, when some Americans come to the UK, they really don't get it. They don't see what's really going on. They misunderstand what they see, unfortunately. So hopefully we can inject some common sense and some reality into these silly claims, frankly, that Tucker Carlson and the person he's interviewing is talking about on this recent video. So here is the extract in question, and here we go.
As it's become more Pakistani, the native-born Brits, the white Brits, have become way less impressive. I'm not imagining this. Or do you know what I'm talking about?
But also the morale goes down. It's almost like you're a conquered nation.
Yes.
So, Pakistanis are taking over the country. That surprised me. In fact, the stats suggest, and if you put in Google, how many Pakistanis are in the UK, this is what you get, the AI answer. The 2021 census, Pakistanis constituted 2.7% of the whole population in England and Wales, about 1.5 million people identifying as Pakistani. Now, a lot of these people, if not the majority, were born here, so they're British citizens anyway. So there's a tiny fraction. I don't quite see where he's getting his anxieties from. So that's the first thing. Pakistanis are not conquering the country.
No, London was 95% white in the 1920s. It is now 29% white.
Right. So this is the next claim. So from virtually 100% white in the beginning of the 20th century, it's now only 29% white. Wow, this is an amazing statistic that Tucker Carlson is just listening to and going, oh, wow. So what are the facts? Well, these are the facts. Again, this is the AI answer. If you put in, what's the percentage of white people in London? This is the first answer you'll get on Google. In London, 53.8% of the population identifies as white, according to Wikipedia. This includes white British, white Irish, and other white ethnicities. The remaining population is composed of various groups, including Asian, Black, mixed, and so on. So a clear majority, not 29%. This is a huge difference, actually. So he's wrong about that. But you see, you're asking, well, why is he getting this impression? And I think we have to bear several things in mind, which Tucker Carlson doesn't seem to understand. Now, there's a massive commuter footprint. Millions of people commute every day into London. This is just a fact of life. So a lot of people you see in London are certainly not from London. They come here to work and they're welcome here. London's a great city. It's like New York in many ways. This is just the reality of the situation.
Now, again, I don't think whites are better than other people, whatever, but it's just not London anymore.
They're the indigenous population.
It's something, exactly. And I thought we're against mass ethnic cleansing, isn't it?
Totally right.
And again,
No, it's ethnic cleansing. It's certainly not ethnic cleansing. We've got to remember also, in addition to the huge number of people who come into London to work, is the number of tourists we have. London's one of the top destinations for tourism on the planet. It says on Google, in 2023, the UK saw 38 million visitors from overseas. half of those came, says a significant portion of visitors, over half, travel to London. And a lot of these visitors are from the Middle East, they're from China, they're Japan, of course, they're from America, from Germany, France. Huge numbers of people come here. So, what these people are seeing when you come here are not necessarily people from London. They're probably looking at other tourists like themselves. So this is a pretty important fact that Tucker Carlson and his guest simply apparently don't know. A little bit of research would have shown this. So they're probably looking at tourists, they're looking at commuters, they're not looking at people who are born and brought up in London necessarily. London is a huge capital. It sucks in millions of people out the world, and then they all go home again mostly. So this is the reality.
I debated at Oxford and Cambridge back in May. These are broken, clunkered cities and towns. They're completely unrecognizable. London especially is just gone. It's a husk of its former self, as you would say. It's a museum.
Depressing.
This is extraordinarily silly. London sounds as if I'm working for the tourist board. Is a great city. It's very vibrant culturally. It's fantastic cuisine, has fantastic museums, plenty of things to do and to see, huge numbers of tourist attractions, which is why so many people come here. It's not a museum of former husk. I've never been so vibrant and interesting, and it's an extraordinary place. If you've not been to London, do come here. It's on a par with someone, as I say, somewhere like New York, and it's absolutely vibrant and scintillating and fascinating. So these people are dissing London. I have no idea what their agenda is. Not just a museum. It has some of the greatest museums in the world, but it's far from that. Come to Covent Garden, come to the West End, go to our theatres, go to our museums, look at our cultural life, our restaurants, our fantastic public parks, our open spaces. It's part of the glories and it's a very tolerant place as well. It doesn't matter where you're from, you're going to be rubbing shoulders with all sorts of people, and it's usually a very peaceful place. Everyone's enjoying themselves. This isn't a husk of a place. It's a great world-class city. So I don't know where these two American people get their ideas from, but it's not based on reality, in my view.
It's depressing. It brings down your soul.
Really?
And
Really?
when I go walk through Piccadilly Square and there's just more Muslims than native-born whites, or
Piccadilly Square. I've never heard of a Piccadilly Square in my life. There's no such thing as Piccadilly Square. What he means is this: Piccadilly Circus. Now, Piccadilly Circus, as you can see, is full of tourists. The chances of you meeting an actual indigenous person are very small, because the world comes to Piccadilly Circus. To be honest, I'm not sure why. I mean, I was in Times Square, New York, a couple of months ago. That's pretty impressive. Piccadilly Circus is a kind of smaller, less interesting place, but hey, I guess you've got to visit it. But this is for tourists, and it's not dominated by Muslims. I think they're confusing brown people with Muslims or black people with Muslims, a kind of crude Western stereotype. Oh, they're not white, they must be Muslim. I don't know. But the people of all faiths or none come to London. So this is Piccadilly Circus. And if you go there now, it's very vibrant. They're musicians. It's very clean. It's very orderly. It's a fantastic public space. It's not aggressive. You don't get a sense of aggro in the atmosphere. It's relaxed. This is what London is like. So I have no idea what he's talking about, but it's certainly not true at all in my experience.
there's something wrong about that, and that is a metamorphosis and you have to wonder, like, did you vote for this? Did you want this? Did you invite it? And
did you invite it? Well, actually, yes, funnily enough, because after the Second World War, many European countries, including Britain, invited people from other parts of the world to come and work. For example, in Germany, he mentioned Berlin, Cologne invited a lot of guest workers from Turkey, mostly Muslims, to live in Germany. They were guest workers, and some of these have become citizens. So it's not a conquest, it's not an invasion. These people were invited to rebuild Germany. Ditto in Britain as well. We had colonies, so a lot of the people, Pakistanis, people from India and other places in Africa, were invited here to rebuild Britain. So they worked in our factories up north. They helped rebuild our transport system and the NHS, which is why so many doctors and nurses and others are from other parts of the world. They were invited here, actually. So this is not an invasion. This is an invitation. There is a difference between the two. And the other point, I suppose we have to say, and this is slightly more controversial, is it really, is that a lot of indigenous white British people, under the influence, say, of feminism and materialism, have simply stopped having children or have very few children, certainly below replacement level. And this causes a shrinkage in the population. This is true. But no one's forcing them to do this, actually. People should have bigger families if they want to increase the numbers of the population. So this is entirely within our gift. And blaming Muslims and others for this is frankly unhistorical, actually. But anyway, let's hear some more.
Something about the two, it's the way it happened. And what is the deal with the Muslims in London or Cologne or Berlin or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, what is?
Yeah, so here's the reference to Cologne, Berlin, or whatever. Well, as I've already said, the Muslims in Germany overwhelmingly were invited here, were invited to Berlin to live there to help rebuild after the war, the Turkish guest workers. And Germany also invited in, Germany, like many other countries involved in wars abroad, and invited people, Syrian people and people from Afghanistan occupied by Western powers. So that this is not an invasion. They were invited in by governments elected by the people.
Difference. I've never gotten a straight answer,
Well,
but I do think part of it is mass migration of any kind is a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And it has bad effects on everyone involved. So the immigrant.
Well, why do we see these massive movements of population? Let's think about Afghanistan. Let's talk about Iraq, for example. A lot of these countries were traumatized, invaded by Western countries, often under false pretexts, weapons of mass destruction and so on. And this caused extreme dislocation and stress. And many people left and they ended up in European countries. You know, if we don't, we shouldn't be causing this dislocation by invasion and our conquest of these countries if we didn't want to see the immigration backlash, or the blowback rather, from these countries. You know, we're not passive observers here. Our actions have consequences around the world, and populations move as a result of these actions. And many of these people end up here. But most of these people, the Syrian refugees, Iraqi refugees, Afghan refugees, actually end up in Muslim countries, actually places like Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and so on. They may not call them refugees, but they've taken in a huge number of people. They've housed them and looked after them, probably far more than, say, Britain has. So, you know, this is the modern world we live in, unfortunately, and we're not kind of innocent of our own contribution to this mass movement of peoples.
And the conquered.
It fails to be what it once was.
Of course. But
conquered. You see, this language is very extreme. We've been conquered. This is not what's happened. We, the West, have conquered. If you want to, in terms of actual military conquering, we've done that in the West. Well, when was the last time a Middle Eastern country conquered anywhere in the West? It hasn't happened.
Dude, it has a dispiriting effect on the people being replaced, and they're not what they were. All of a sudden.
It's hard to measure, but it's so true.
It's so noticeable.
It's noticeable. Their morale is down. They believe goofy and weird stuff. They almost have this strange fetish.
This is where the conversation gets a bit odd, to be honest. They talk about weird, strange fetishes and weird ideas, without actually saying exactly what they're talking about. Is kind of some pretty strange language being used, which I can't really decode here without kind of speculation, really. But it's very odd, I must say.
London, that they like being conquered.
Oh yeah.
That they're like enjoying the slow motion rape.
Being harder.
No, like
slow motion rape of our country. Did I hear that correctly? This is appalling language. As I say, the Pakistanis and others from India and other countries were invited here by the government because of a shortage of labor to help rebuild our factories and our NHS and our transport system, etc. And they're here legally. You know, they have British passports. You know, we can't invite people and then complain about it. I mean, this is not a coherent policy. And Muslims, particularly in terms of charity and helping others, are the #1 donors of charity of all the population groups in the UK, as recent surveys have shown. So the contributions are enormous to this country.
It's like no, seriously.
Oh, I agree.
It's like this weird sexual attitude, like, yes, Islamist, you know, come into my country. Like, what?
No.
And it's
notice how it's no longer Muslims, it's now Islamists. So Muslims are now being demonized, classified as Islamists. And all Tucker Carlson can do is laugh and ha 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 ha. This language, this extreme kind of demonization of a people is not helpful, to put it very mildly.
I don't know what that is, but I will say this. I will make a hypothesis though.
It's the immigration cuck, I think we would say.
No, it is though, but
no.
A secular nation cucks up. Debated.
Notice how solemnly a secular nation cocks up. What's that got to do with anything? So that's the end of their video, because the second part, it just repeats the first part. A secular nation. So of course we're godless. Well, in fact, the invitations were made when to peoples in the British Empire, as it was then called, whilst Britain was a far more Christian country in the 1940s and 50s than certainly is today. At that time, the vast majority of people identify as Christian, and many, many more people went to church. And so it was that time that we invited people to come and live here. Now we're a much more secular country. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you. It's very regrettable. Sometimes Tucker Carlson, hits the nail on the head, when he's criticizing certain, whether it be Trump or whatever. You can see what he's getting at. But this is just based on myths, fake statistics, like 29% of Londoners are white. Excuse me, is much more than half. Pakistanis, a couple of percent of the whole population. And then to mistake and not see that the huge numbers of foreigners that are in London, that's huge numbers. We're looking at, particularly this time of year, during the summer, in August, a huge number of tourists. And where do tourists go? The tourist hotspots. The internet will say, oh, go to Piccadilly Circus, not Piccadilly Square. That's where they go. Go to the museums and so on. Of course, you're going to see a lot of foreigners. We welcome them too. These people are here legally, spending their lovely money, which helps our businesses. So, and also the commuter belt, huge numbers come in from outside of London and fly in from abroad to work here as well. So the picture is much more complicated and nuanced than he suggests. But this demonization of Muslims is extremely unfortunate and is typical of many on the right. And I wish Tucker Carlson would continue his enlightenment on other issues into this issue and stop knocking Muslims and misrepresenting Muslims, because it's not the issue, I'm afraid. Anyway, that's enough of my rant until now. Until next time.